Hello, I hope you are having a great day. In this video today I'm gonna talk a little bit about the challenges we faced when we moved from Brazil to the US. I had some people that sent me messages and asked me to talk about the challenges that we face when we move to a different country. Of course, this would be a very long video, so I'll talk about, just few aspects of it, and if you have interest I can do other videos, showing different things that happens when you move to a foreign country. But before I start, I'd like to ask you, if you haven't subscribed to my channel yet, please do that now. And if you do like this video, give me a thumbs up and make your comments below. Also, let me know what topics you want me to talk about. And maybe I'll do a next video about that, okay? So I moved to the US in 1999. I was still married at that time. So my husband came to me very excited and said, I passed the selection process for an MBA program in two universities, University of São Paulo, which is a high-ranked university in Brazil, and University of Dallas in Texas. Then he said, I'm not sure how University of Dallas, is ranked compared to the other universities in the US. I'm sure it's not in the top 30 or top 40 because its website doesn't mention anything. Then he continued, if we decide for University of São Paulo, of course we need to move to São Paulo. And if we decide for University of Dallas, we have to move to the US. It didn't take me 2 seconds to yell, Dallas! And then he said, do you understand that University of São Paulo is one of the best universities in the country, in Brazil? And University of Dallas is not even in the top 30 in the US? And I said, of course I do. I know that University of São Paulo is a dream for a lot of Brazilians, and I'm proud that you passed the selection process. But I also understand that the experience we'll have living in another country will be priceless, and not just for you, but for our whole family too. So it took only like 10-minute conversation for us to make a big decision that would change our lives. And that's how it should be, right? Big change takes big energy. And I knew that we were ready for that challenge. Moving to the US was like a new beginning, fresh new beginning. It was like starting a completely new life. We were living in a foreign country, experiencing a different culture, different language, and the big challenge was to take the most of this wonderful experience. It's not only a different culture and lifestyle. When you move to the US with the status of a student, it means that all you had built in your home country, like credit history for example, is left behind, and it doesn't count in the US. It doesn't matter the fact that you are an MBA student because you are compared with any other college or high school student. So I remember as if it was like yesterday when we arrived in the US, more specifically in Dallas, Texas. We left the kids in Brazil, so we had a week to look for an apartment and buy everything we needed to make it a home sweet home. We had planned for the kids to come a week later, so we had only 7 days to have it all done and ready for them, 2 babies. Looking for an apartment was our first interesting experience, yes. We were all excited about this whole change and, in our lives, and we went to visit the first apartment complex in our list. A beautiful blonde lady was the property manager there, and she came to welcome us. She was very nice and we felt very welcome there. I immediately thought, because I'm very optimistic, I said, wow, this might be the one. The conversation was going very well and she was explaining, all about the amenities and the good neighborhood it's located, etc., etc. Then she turned it over to us and asking, where we worked and all those questions that followed this one. So I could not speak English at that time. So my husband turned to her and very proudly he said that he was taking an MBA program at the University of Dallas, and he was trying to say that he was a student, a temporary resident, so he had no job. Our plan at that time was to live in the US for only 2 years and then for him to complete the MBA, and then we would go back to Brazil. I guess it didn't sound as good to her as it did to us. So she apologized and said that she could not rent an apartment to us because we had no credit history. It literally seemed that we were speaking 2 different languages, because how can she say that we had no credit history? Of course we did. Fortunately, we were well prepared and we had our bank statements handy. So then we, very proud, we handed it over to her. Of course, they were all from our bank accounts in Brazil. We were sure that it would answer all her questions and doubts about our credit history, but we were so disappointed to see that she didn't even look at them. Okay, we got it. We were facing our first challenge moving to a foreign country. I believe I can say that we are considered good people and hard workers in Brazil, and we took it for granted, assuming that we would be considered the same way in the US. So it didn't take more than a few days to figure out that in order to live in the US, we would need to start it all over as a teenager students applying for our first credit card in America. Oh my gosh, we were in our early 30s with 2 little babies learning how to live as a students again. I never thought it would be like this. It wasn't a good feeling, but even though I was happy to be in the US, where we would have a chance to learn a lot about a different culture. So that sounds very exciting to me. So we started reading some books about tips on how to build credit history in the US. We also talked to some, foreign friends that we met and about the challenge that they were facing. And we found out that they all faced the same challenges. So we had no option other than accepting the situation and doing something to change it, right? At the same time, we were praying that we could find, an apartment complex where we would be welcome as students with no credit history. So we followed the rules of the books and, with lots of patience, we built it step by step. The first year living in the US, we met a very nice couple. She's American and he's Portuguese. We were talking to them about all these challenges that foreign people face when they move to the US, and she told us a very interesting story about her credit history. Despite being an American, she faced the same thing we did. Long story short, after many years living in the US, they decided to move to Portugal, and they lived there for 7 years. After those 7 years, they decided to move back to the US, so their kids would learn both cultures and practice both languages. So guess what? She was so surprised when they came back to the US, her home country, right? And then she went buy new furniture for their house and she found out that her credit history was inexistent. It was like if she had never lived in the US. She felt threatened on her own country. Then she learned that if you spend more than 5 years outside of the country, your credit history is completely deleted and you need to build it all over again. So that made us think that it happens not just to foreign people, but even to Americans. Very interesting. I've been in the US for 21 years now, and it seems that I never had one day where I didn't learn something new. I was always excited and trying to learn as much as I could. I wanted to explore all opportunities that would come my way, and I couldn't speak English at all at that time. It's crazy to think. I had English class when I was in middle school in Brazil, but I never liked the class. So needless to say that I didn't learn anything, right? I don't know why, but English class was too boring for me. Of course, the result could not be different. So I had no English skills at all when we moved to the US. And that's why my husband at that time said I was crazy when I said I want to move to the US. But to me, I knew I could change the situation. So I told him that I would learn living in the country, which, by the way, is always the best way to learn a new language, right? So I had a similar experience when I was 23 and I decided to learn French. I took intensive lessons with a French teacher who was living in my hometown at that time. And I completely fell in love with the French language. And what happens when you do something that you love? You do it very well, right? Well, I learned French in 2 months. 2 months. Then I decided to take a break from college and go to France to improve my French language skills. I spent 6 wonderful months in Paris, France, to pursue this dream, this desire. So my friends and my family, they didn't understand that because the natural thing would be to learn English as a second language, right? Not French. The more I fell in love with the language, the more I refused to learn English. Funny. At that time, I was majoring in photojournalism in Brazil. I liked the class, but I wasn't sure it was, really what I want to do in my life. So it was a good time for me to take a break and learn something new. So because of my experience learning a new language in only 2 months, I knew I could do the same with English, at least I thought. And besides that, I always loved, new challenges. So that was a new one that I needed to face, to learn a new language. The bigger the challenge, the bigger the reward, right? So the US opened my mind in every way you can think of. It's hard to explain, but this endless life experience is the most amazing thing that happened to me. Since the beginning, I could understand why Americans are so proud to say they have freedom. I don't have anything spectacular that happened to me, but I'm so thankful for everything that I have conquered. We face challenges that we are not expecting, like building a credit history, for example. One of the things, right? But once you start doing things the right way, you get results and recognition. That's America. I'm the biggest fan of this country. And that's the thing I admire the most in America. You are worth by who you are and what you built, and not by what your family owns or what your family name is. In Brazil, it doesn't always work this way. Most of the time, it counts who your parents are and what your family accomplished in the past, right? I'm sure Brazilians will understand what I mean here. So this was a good surprise to me, and after living in the US for a while, I realized that nobody has ever asked me who my parents were and what they did for a living. So it's always a great feeling when you accomplish something because you know that it was 100% done by you with no extra help, and that's simply priceless. It proves that you don't need anything else besides you to reach your goals. You know why? Because you have the power. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, please give me a thumbs up. Subscribe to my channel if you haven't done that yet, and make comments below. Let me know what you think and let me know what else you want to hear from me. Have a great day. Bye bye.